Hello there, sword friends. Today I am going to do a unboxing of swords and kind of an initial impressions video of the sword that is in this box. And I think this is the sword from Hanban Forge. So to many of you sword friends out there who recommended I get one or check one out and put in a good word for me, I much appreciate it. Someone from Hanban Forge reached out to me and said they would send me a review sample to take a look at, and I got an idea of what it should be, but anyway, we'll take a look. So anyway, thanks to the folks out there that likely put in a good word for me. Thanks to the folks at Hanban Forge that sent this review sample over. I'm going to open it up, just kind of give you some initial impressions. Some months later down the line, I will have an actual review of the sword itself, and eventually, as I do with many of the review samples, I will push it to the point of failure. I don't have time to do that exactly today, though, but I will give you some initial thoughts and impressions based on whatever I can see quick from, because that's you open the box and you look at it. I lost my train of thought there, but I think you get what I'm throwing down. Now, for the sake of rambling here, I can say that the box appears marginally different. A lot of times I get just the cellophane kind of or styrofoam box that's been wrapped in like packaging tape as something to keep it maybe together along with some level of waterproofing. This has got cardboard on the outside of it, and it's pretty well taped. And it's also a little bit narrower, so I don't know if that will mean more potential for, broken parts and things like that. Tough to say. Okie doke. We got some little bits of cardboard here. We got what do we got here? Dear Matthew Jensen, I am Yao from Hanban Forge. I sent this sword to you for testing. If there's any problems with the sword, please feel free to let me know. I appreciate your help. Regards, Yao. So thank you, Yao, for sending me the sword. We'll put the unboxing knife away and let's take a look here. It's nice to get a note. I know it's not that it will make me biased, but generally speaking, I think I just get stuff from stock. I have not yet to this point had a company that has sent me a product with a personalized note in it, so that is a nice touch. So it came with a sword bag, which is neat. It's folded up and looks very much similar to other sword bags I've gotten. Generally speaking, the sword is in the sword bag, but now that I say that, it appears to have another bag for a sword on it. Now, inherently, I'm guessing there's probably some sort of logic and reason behind it, but when I see a sword bag that, generally speaking, I don't use these. Maybe one day I'll make a big quilt out of it or something like that. I have like hundreds of them at this point. But when I see two bags, it makes me think that maybe you're spending money on things that I don't necessarily want, though this does not appear to be a particularly expensive piece of fabric, and it likely kept it from rubbing on the box and all of that. The scabbard has arrived in a way that is not scratched and pinged and dinged, so to the packaging's credit, it did the job. I don't see anything bent. I don't see anything loosey-goosey. I see that there is a space on the habaki area here. It's not pushed in all the way. It can be. It's probably better that it didn't ship that way. Now, I see that there's some plastic lining the sword itself. So general initial impressions, it looks like we have some cellophane wrapped or something wrapped around the ito here. I don't know why they do that, if it's for shipping or for moisture is it, but whatever, it certainly does the job. You can kind of see that there's like dust residue from the Mikugi bouncing around in here. It's just got like little sawdust bits in it. Anyway, it's a very basic scabbard. From what I understand, this sword is $200. My speculation is that that does not include shipping, though I haven't checked. But just looking over for flaws and problems, I do see that if I move the Sageo, that there are some minor blemishes, imperfections in the lacquer, like the Sageo may have been tied on the lacquer before it was fully cured. Very common problem that I see on many swords. A lot of people never untie these knots, and the people that do get this area scuffed up quite a bit because it goes in your obi and such anyway. But yeah, there's some imperfections around here, and Lacquer takes a really long time to cure, and if you're painting Sayas and you're behind schedule and you're trying to get swords out the door, it's no surprise that you don't leave them for the 17 years that it takes to fully cure. Anyway, I don't see any scratches, dings, pings, nicks. Everything seems straight. The Ito is on there. I'm going to take this plastic off in a moment. Actually, not in a moment. I will just do it right now. Do I need the old unboxing knife again, or can I? No, I don't. I don't need a knife to unwrap a sword. I need a sword to unwrap a knife. I'm going to do that. Okay, so we got brown Ito. It appears to move around slightly. You're probably not catching it given the camera angle, and I'll cover all this stuff in the review. It's also not necessarily entirely fair. This just came out of the box, and it hasn't had time to like adjust to my climate and stuff, so maybe it will feel different when I go into the review. At the moment it seems pretty tight. With enough pressure I can kind of move around some of the knots. They all seem relatively uniform. Even over the Menuki seems reasonably tight. Nothing that would give me pause in terms of usage or anything like that. I can make out where the panels are. In a $200 sword, it's not a surprise that it isn't a full wrap, but I can kind of make out very distinct sections here where the panels are. I don't make out the core underneath, but I believe this raised section is the panels. I guess we'll know when I go to break in the sword. Transitions seem okay near the Fuchi. Towards the Kashra, they're not bad, but this knot is a little bit bunchy. And I kind of like the fittings. These fittings remind me of, appears to be a Sakura or cherry blossom theme, and they remind me of fittings I've seen. They look a little, I don't know if that's paint or if they've rusted slightly, but they have a, well, it's probably not rust because it's not rubbing off on my hand. But they have, I've seen these fittings before. I don't know if they're recast from, I don't know. They look very, very familiar to me though, but just not ones that I've seen on the mass-produced forge stuff out of China. Don't know what to say. They're handsome though, and the transitions look pretty good. The Nakago, or the scuff feels pretty good in my hands. I like the Suba as well. It has this, I don't exactly know what the pattern is, but you see it's a pretty famous pattern. I don't exactly know what it is, if it's a chrysanthemum or what it's supposed to represent, but I remember the Practical Plus from Hanwei had something very similar, different rim, but I like the pattern, not one that I see, and this is kind of sharp to the touch a little bit. Not like, it's not hurting, but it's not gentle on the skin either. It has a nice, am I peeling my nails off? No. Maybe I can catch a tune there. I like the look of it. I'm not sure if it's gonna be sandpaper on my hands when I go to whack things, but it looks like chunks of my skin are already on there, but there's no blood, so looks good. It's handsome. I like the color, and it's different. It's not something I've seen before, and it's simple. I like the look, and especially being on a $200 sword, this looks good, and it doesn't, at least under some pressure, it's not moving around. It doesn't strike me as weak. Okay. One more look on the scabbard. We have a, looks like maybe a horn or resin Koiguchi, and we see the little wood slot here. It looks like a decent scabbard for ye old money. And then we have this plastic bit that's gone over the katana, and that is very likely to abate rust. And so I don't see wax or anything on here. I see oil underneath here, and this is a very solid way to ship a sword. At the moment, I guess I gotta finish looking at it to tell you, but it does not appear. It's got a machine-y oil smell, but it's not too bad. And it has left some stains, but not. I think I just have to wipe it with a better towel. Yeah, so I see some, not rust staining, but just, I'll have to break out a camera to show you what's left over on the surface of the steel here. It's kind of a neat looking pattern. It almost looks like a hamon, but I don't know if it's like an etch or what's left over it. It's left an interesting pattern though, and there's some minor spots, and I imagine if I just take a little bit of mother's mag or some sort of polish that it's going to come out. It appears to not have a hamon I didn't know exactly what to expect, so I don't know if this is differentially hardened or not. Let me see if I can get it under a different light. I don't see a hamon in there, so I'm speculating this is a through hardened sword of sound steel. They sent me a link to what it was, and I didn't pay a whole lot of attention, honestly. I wanted to kind of form some opinions in taking it out. I looked mostly at the price, knowing that it's a $200 sword, so I could kind of at least, you know, not go too far off the deep end if it's you know, based on the price, I guess, anyway. Copper habaki as well, and copper seppa, these little washer spaces in this blade collar here. I like seeing that. It's different than the average brass habaki that I see on nigh everything, so a slight shift in color. I don't know how much that's going to appeal to people that don't constantly play with mass production swords, but if you do, then having some option in terms of color and aesthetically, I think the copper color goes better with the overall look and feel. There are little brass shitodome here, and they don't appear to be glued in, so those will likely bounce around when I end up taking the sword out and practicing with it. General feeling, though, this is a pretty light, nimble feeling sword. It doesn't feel clumsy or dead in the hand. The edge, not sharp here. It's generally not supposed to be. As we go up, it seems pretty refined in the Monouchi area. I don't have any paper sitting around me to cut because I'm totally prepared to do this. It doesn't feel extremely sharp though, but I mean sharp enough that I could certainly hurt myself with it. We'll see how it does. It doesn't feel like it's kind of hair popping sharp. Is it shaving? No. So sharp-ish, I guess, but I imagine honing it or something like that would get it right to the edge sharpness that you'd want. But I'd say it's acceptable, but could be certainly sharper. And that's it, I guess. Out of the box, it's a comfortable feeling sword. Initial impressions for $200 seem like it's interesting. I really like this bit right here the most. I think the Sakura theme is kind of cool. I like the fitting set, though I do have some concern. I hate even mentioning it, but it looks very familiar to something else that I've seen, and I don't know if it's copied with authorization or if I'm, you know, just going off on a tangent and it's not. That's not the case. I don't honestly know, but they look very familiar, like something from Yamato, Budoku, or Tazando, or something like that. I like the, that may not be the case. Either way, I like the Fuchikasha. I like how they blend in. I like the theme choice in terms of colors. I like this Tsuba. It appears to be some sort of like water jet cutout kind of Tsuba. I like the way it looks. It's a little aggressive on the hands, but I guess, you know, beauty hurts. Is that what they say? I don't know. I've never been beautiful. But the Habaki, I also like shape of the blade. It's handsome. There's an attempt at a Yokote. It doesn't appear to have any kind of transition on my fingers or anything like that. It doesn't need to, though, and there's just an attempt at putting a Kasaki on it in terms of aesthetics. It's got a reasonable mirror polish. The edges all seem soft. I'm guessing it went under some sort of heavy buffing machine or something like that to achieve the polish. But overall, a handsome sword, and for $200, all right, sword friends, I am losing my train of thought. Suffice to say, I don't see any inherent problems that would make this sword not worth the asking price of $200, but I'll reserve my final thoughts till after I finish the review, which will likely be in some months. What I would finish up with here is saying that the little etching I was seeing is actually coming off as I rub my finger on the sword, and I'll take the sword to an alcohol cloth and then reapply some different oil, and I'll show you in the review what it looks like after that, but I think it's going to be fine. The Tsuba has a slight wiggle to it. I don't personally consider that a problem, but it's worth noting out of the box. It's also worth noting that the sword has not had time to really adjust to my environment. It just got delivered, so maybe that's why it's noticeable now. I don't know, but I'll tell you more in the review. I don't personally consider that a problem. We'll see how hard the handle is to take off and all that, but suffice to say, I'd rather have a handle that I can disassemble and a Tsuba that requires a little tap of the nail set occasionally than a ska or a hilt that requires a heavy hand with a hammer in order to take off, which is the case with some very, very tight pieces. Anyway, it appears reasonably sharp. The saya as well doesn't rattle a lot. It has, some, but I wouldn't call it a significant problem. And for a $200 sword, it seems appropriate. Now, I don't know what it's like to move around or anything like that yet, because this is the initial impressions, and I'm going to stop here because those pretty much sum up my initial impressions. So I'll stop here and say thank you to Hanban Forge for sending me the sword. I'm looking forward to spending more time with it. Thank you, Yao, for the handmade note. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you to all the sword friends that recommended Hanban Forge. I appreciate that they reached out. I don't even remember if I asked for it or if Hanban Forge reached out to me, but in either case, a lot of recommendations from sword friends and probably some good words on their end came in and went to Hanban Forge, and that's why I have this one in my hand to review and share with you, and I'm humbled by that. I really appreciate the efforts of you fellow sword friends putting in a good word for me. So anyway, if you have any ideas for testing, something you'd like to see in particular, throw it in the commentary down below. And as always, if it's within reason, I will attempt to include it in said review. That's all I've got for now, though. As always, cheers and thanks for watching.